Anna Foster from 5 Live, and we are here at the beautiful Blackpool Tower in this gorgeous circus to kickstart the UK's biggest conversation about mums and mental health. Everything from postnatal depression, anxiety, loneliness, work-life balance, the whole lot. Anything that you felt or talked about.
I'm Rochelle Humes, and we're going to be live, as Anna said. We've got 40 plus... 40? No, that's not impressive. We've got 400 plus mums in the audience, and some dads too. Shout out to the dads. Hey! There they are.
And I'm Giovanna Fletcher, and we will be discussing the facts, hearing personal stories, and looking for solutions for the mental health challenges affecting so many mums and dads in the UK.
We have got our gorgeous panel of experts, and not to forget, of course, our mums who have joined us today. Lots of you from Blackpool. Woo! And you can follow the conversation on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram, #mumtakeover.
And don't forget, today is all about starting this conversation. It's going to continue, we hope, for a very long time online. It's just a chance to share experiences, share your thoughts, your stories. And sometimes it's just about hearing somebody say, you know what? I recognise that, and I've been through it as well. Our celeb mums are going to head off into the audience and get themselves ready. And it's a good time to meet our panel.
Hi, so I'm Annie O'Leary, and I'm the Editor-in-Chief of Net Mums, the UK's biggest parenting community online. We are a place where 8 million mums come and talk every month, and where they can offer each other peer-to-peer support, that invaluable thing that gets you through those tricky days.
And I'm Gregoire. I'm a perinatal psychiatrist, which is a mother and baby psychiatrist, a consultant in the NHS. And I'm also chair of the Maternal Mental Health Alliance, which represents 85 patient and professional organisations, all committed to improving the mental health of mums and the outcomes for them and their babies. And I'm also a presenter on the BBC Two series, Trust Me, I'm a Doctor. See it in January.
We trust you already. I'm going to be taking notes. Alan's your man for advice this afternoon.
Hiya, I'm Claire Law. I work for Better Start right here in Blackpool. My role really is to design new services for mums and dads with babies and young children as part of the Better Start initiative. It's a national lottery-funded initiative, and it's all about improving outcomes and finding out what works best for our youngest children.
Yeah, and Neev.
Hi everyone, my name's Neev. I'm a radio presenter and a DJ. I had my first child last year, beautiful little girl called Genevieve. I struggled with my mental health in the months that followed her birth, and I feel like, because I got through it all, I have so many tips and hopefully some really useful advice for you mums today. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's get this discussion started, because we've got so many mums and so many fantastic stories to share in the audience. We're going to begin with Eve. Eve, hello. Hi. Now, tell us about your story, because I was reading one of your posts online the other day, which was so much good information that I wish, to be honest, somebody had given me on the way home from the hospital. Tell us about your experience to start off with. Where are you coming at this from?
So I'm coming at this from having never had a mental illness. When I had my son 7.5 years ago, I developed postpartum psychosis and postnatal anxiety disorder. So when I had Joe, I didn't have the rush of love that people talk about. I had something very different and very dramatic. I had a real fear of him, and I thought he was evil. I thought he'd been sent to destroy me. I had hallucinations that I was floating in the air or that I'd been buried alive. And I'd never, ever heard that having a baby could happen, this could happen to you and a baby.
So you weren't primed for any of that? That was a complete surprise?
None of that, a complete surprise, because it seems so extreme, the kind of symptoms that you have, but they started to happen to me within a few hours of having my son. And eventually, when he was 6 weeks old, I was hospitalised in a psychiatric mother and baby unit, a place like where Alan consults, to start my recovery. And it took me around 1.5 years to recover from the symptoms I was experiencing, because it was so traumatising. And you're right, the reason that I wrote the blog that I did the other day was because myself and my family had absolutely no idea where to go or who to talk to. And
who did you first... Can you remember who you first went to? Because sometimes it's making that first leap, isn't it? And trusting one person to tell.
Absolutely. So I remember 5 days after I had my son Joe, I went to the GP and said I had a very real fear of him, and I didn't know why. I didn't want to be near him. And she told me that I needed some more sleep.
Really?
And I saw another GP, and I've written about this as well, where one GP told me to make a cake, get some new makeup for myself, and maybe I'd start feeling a bit better about myself.
Were they well-meaning? Was it just that they didn't understand?
I think they were very well-meaning. None of them were rude or unkind to me, but I think they hadn't ever seen anything like me, and I think they were giving me the lines they maybe would give to other people for when they come into them for something very mild. But I genuinely think now, working how I do in maternal mental health, that they had never seen anything like me.
Really?
Yeah.
So, and how do you, once you've identified what the problem is, and once you're living through that, how do you then start to change things? What do they do to kind of make that better?
Well, for me, going into the mother and baby unit was the single best thing that I ever did. It saved my life. The morning I went into it was the day I decided that I wanted to die. I was heavily medicated.
You say that so... Casually is not the right word, but that's such a huge thing for anybody.
Do you know what it is? I've come to terms with my illness and the symptoms that happened to me. And my friend always says, motherhood has been the making of me, but not in the way that I thought it was going to be. I've seen a new side to myself, a massive strength in myself, and I have reached those depths where I've truly thought that I did not want to be here and almost attempted it. And to see my recovery and how accepting help from proper healthcare professionals with medication, that it's okay to go into an in-unit if need be, and accepting that you need some time and lots of support. I've accepted that. I've accepted where the depth that I went to, and I've accepted that I'm very much recovered.
Yeah. Stacey, who have you got with you?
I am here with Fiona Small.
Hi.
Hello. Fiona, you're the founder of Young Mums Support Network. You're an incredible woman. Tell me your experiences of becoming a mum.
So I became mum 13 years ago, and sadly for me, the person I became pregnant for told me I should terminate my pregnancy, and if I didn't, he'd have nothing to do with her. So to date, he's never seen her, and he's never been in her life. So that for me was a big shock. I mean, first-time pregnancy and being faced with rejection was really soul-destroying, but very embarrassing as well.
You felt that a shame for being a single parent?
I did. I felt ashamed. I felt like I was the only person that had this experience. And I didn't feel that I was allowed to enjoy pregnancy, if that made sense. So, you know, going for the appointments and stuff like that was very kind of like, yeah, it wasn't fun.
Claire, from your point of view, when you're dealing with a mum who's in that situation, what would you say to them? Because people must feel that same pressure. I mean, what do you say to try and reassure them?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important. I think what I'm hearing so far today is that there's this huge thing around stigma, and actually people feel that it's their own responsibility to seek help and to access online chats, and there is that, of course, but I think it's really important that professionals and people that are working with young mums or dads, that work in children's centres, that work out in the community, that we really upskill workers and community members to actually reach out to people, to routinely ask about how they're feeling, if they're okay, have they had experiences of trauma or difficulties in their life, and just to make it more normal to be asked, so that we're not actually always putting the onus onto people to find help for themselves.
But as I said, not just mums today, dads as well. Giovanna, you've got one with you.
Exactly. Let's talk about dads, because I do think they get overlooked. Mark Williams is the founder of Fathers Reaching Out, who campaigns to raise awareness about postnatal depressions in families. So Mark, can you tell us a little bit more about you and what you do and what you've gone through?
Yeah, I was totally uneducated about mental health. I was 30 years of age, and I remember the pregnancy was fine, but I remember going in labour ward and these doctors come rushing in and said, your wife's got an emergency C-section, and instantly I had my first ever panic attack. I never had a panic attack before because I thought my wife and baby were going to die. My wife went on to have severe postnatal depression, where she should have had a mother and baby unit, and unfortunately wasn't there. And Wales haven't got a mother and baby unit, which I started the campaign with. I had to take it on myself. I had to give up my job, look after her, the baby. I had a new mortgage, I had money worries coming in, mortgage pay, credit cards. So eventually I was starting to get depression as well myself. Suicidal thoughts around about 4 or 5 month mark. And I suffered in silence for about 6 years. My wife got well, and it wasn't until another trauma happened in my life until I had a full-on breakdown then. But I suffered, I was this man up, coming from a community, I was kickboxing and all that stuff, trying to be a man. And like I said, it took a breakdown. My physical health was great, because I was training and all that, but my mental health deteriorated to the point then I had a full breakdown.
Anna and the panel, do you feel that we just overlook dads, that we forget them?
Do you know, it was interesting hearing you talk, Mark, there about your wife's emergency C-section, because I had one of those as well. And my husband said to me afterwards that in that situation, he felt very left out, like he was a spare part, that he was in the way. And then afterwards, you're trying so hard to help your wife that did you feel like you really took a back seat, I bet?
Yeah, I just wanted her to be well. So I never told my wife how I was feeling because I didn't want to impact on her mental health. So I suffered for years, because I didn't know about the nightmares and flashbacks, thinking my wife had died, wake up in the middle of the night. What I know now is PTSD, it never goes on and on today. But all I concerned was my wife, and that's what I wanted to explain to men. The quicker you get the help, the quicker recovery it is.
Carla Lett is in our audience. Whereabouts are you, Carla? I'm going to climb some stairs to find you. Hello, Carla. It's great to see you. Now, tell us about your situation, because you started feeling that isolation, didn't you, after having your kids?
I'll probably shake. My son was born 7 weeks early. I had something called placenta previa, so I kept having bleeds like every week in the lead up to my wedding and my son's birth. The week before my wedding, my dad had like a massive heart attack, so he couldn't walk me down the aisle. And then my son came 7 weeks early, so I had postnatal depression quite bad and anxiety. And initially at the time, I don't think you actually realise you've got it, because I was just kind of thinking, is this what being a mum's like? I didn't really enjoy it, but I didn't even dare say I didn't enjoy it. I just pretended that everything was great. And I remember when the midwife used to come around and say, "Are you okay?" I'd be like, "Yeah, everything's great."
Why did you say yes? When you had so much on?
To be honest, what you spoke about, really, I was terrified that I might get my son taken away from me. And I'm normally like quite a social and happy person, so I felt like I had to keep that persona up. And then behind closed doors, I was just a mess, really. I didn't sleep much at night. I was just worried all the time about death, to be honest. That, for some reason, I panic about death anyway. So the fact that me and my son came so close to death really worried me.
Giovanna, who have you got with you next?
So I'm sat here with Kerry, and actually we've just been having a chat about how everyone talking kind of sparks more thoughts for us. And Kerry has one child, but she's also stepmom to lots and lots of children, but she's also blind. So, that feeling of being excluded and not being included is very different for you. And what would you like to ask the panel today?
What are you doing to support people out there with disabilities? What are you doing? People make a lot of assumptions. What resources are there? Because
Alan, why don't you take this one, Alan? Because a lot of what you're doing is pushing people in the right direction, isn't it?
Yes. Specifically with regard to disabilities, we mustn't forget that mental health problems can also be a cause of disability. So very traditionally, we think about physical health problems causing disability, but people with mental health problems quite often can't even get out of bed, can't get dressed, can't get out of the house. So I think it's important that we look at disability across its breadth. But I think a key point is that people with disabilities have very individual needs, whatever type of disability it is. So it's really important to surround ourselves as best we can with a network of people to help and support us, just friends and family, and then to seek professional help without any sense of shame. And it's easily said, but difficult to do, but maybe our friends and family can support us to seek the help that we need.
Yeah. Stacey, who have you got with you now?
I am with Niloufer. Hello.
Yeah.
And you vlog and blog about being a parent. You've got a strong message that you wanted to talk about today.
It's very difficult for Asian mums to come out about being mentally depressed and everything like that. So I just wanted to know what could be done by you guys or anyone in the higher organisations to make it seem more comfortable for mums to come out about their mental health. Asian mums, definitely.
Yeah. Neev, you were nodding at me through that.
Yes, I am an Asian mum. No, I think culturally there is a lot of pressure when you even just get married in our culture. There's a lot of pressure before you get married to get married, and then it's like, when are you having the children? And there is just this kind of microscope that the family put over you. The thing is in our culture that there is so much pressure and there is stigma because we don't talk about being depressed. It's not the done thing. You'll never really see a lot of Asians on TV, you know, on Jeremy Kyle and shows like that talking about their problems. We just don't do it. It's just not done. But I think the best thing that we can do is the things that you're doing. You're setting up these amazing forums and amazing blogs, and you're telling all of the mums out there that it's okay. I think it's a generational issue. I think it's because our parents are kind of old school in their thinking. You know, but it is amazing having support, albeit overbearing support. It is still support. I could not have got over my struggles with postnatal depression if it wasn't for my mother's support, allowing me to get sleep, taking the baby so I could have a bath. You know, those things are so important. It's just, if it's overbearing, it can be hard to deal with. You just got to make your decisions as a parent and stick to them.
Rochelle.
So I'm joined with Juvin, and obviously we're speaking about a lot of our guests today have found it helpful to channel something, whether it's talking about it, whether it's helping other people, like Neev was just saying. Education has been that channel for you, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at 18 years old, when I had my baby, it was about, you know, it was really difficult. I'd lost all my friends. I'd lost, you know, all of that sense of, you know...
Well, your life is very different. You're instantly sort of separated, aren't you? I guess if your friends aren't going through that at the same time as you.
Exactly. So it was very different. I think what really did help me was going back to school. I remember I was in year 12 at the time, and then I took a gap year and went back into year 13. And from there, I just went straight to university. And I think, you know, I used to call myself a part-time mom, you know, part-time mom, part-time student. And, you know, being around people my age, doing things that mattered to me and feeling like I was working on my own future, that was really helpful because, yes, I mean, you know, hearing someone actually speaking, you know, openly about feeling suicidal, it happens to a lot of moms and you feel guilty for even feeling that way. You feel selfish, you feel angry with yourself. And I think actually getting out there and doing things for you.
I think the mum guilt is something that for all of us here, I think that will always be there, right? That mum guilt is a big thing. Thanks for coming today. Thank you very much. Anna?
Yeah, that feeds us actually, Rochelle, really neatly into the final topic that we're going to talk about, which is work-life balance. And of all the times that you feel guilty, probably that moment, maybe it's the first time you go off to work after having the baby, you go back after maternity leave, or maybe it's when you're late home one day, you miss dinner, you miss bedtime, and those bits of guilt are the ones that are really hard to deal with, I think, aren't they?
Mum guilt seems to be a running theme, doesn't it, Emma?
Yeah, definitely. I've got a really poorly husband, and I beat myself up every day thinking that maybe, you know, I could be a better mum, but I don't think I can be a better mum. So it's quite emotional, sorry.
Listen, it's still in the right place, it's totally fine. You beat yourself up for what reason?
Just basically being mum and dad,
Mm-hmm. You've got a lot on, and you have to take that minute for you, and it's okay to get down about it, and it's okay to feel that. And I think generally, if we didn't feel mum guilt, we essentially wouldn't be being a mum, right? That's your job. That's your job to look at, and you want the best for them 24/7. So if you feel like you're not giving everything, you're going to feel mum guilt. But that's because you're spreading yourself thin, maybe, and you've got a lot on.
Yeah, I mean, everybody says to me, "Oh, you're doing an amazing job. I don't know how you do it."
Sure you are.
And it's like I stand back and I think, how am I doing this? It's kind of like autopilot. I think you just do it. You just literally, you focus on your work, what you've got to do after work, how many hospital appointments you've got to go to, the tests that are coming up, the results to wait for, and it's just like every day's a battle.
It's dads as well, Giovanna, isn't it? You've got a couple with you there.
Absolutely. I feel like my role today is to just bring the dads in. Bring them in. Bring them in. I have Sam and Kevin with me. How have you been finding today, and has anything really resonated with you?
I've found that there's been so many inspirational points that have been made and so many amazing stories. And a couple of times I've gone to break into applause, but there's quite a lot of sleeping babies around this area, so I don't think that would have been a good idea. But I think it's been great to just listen to all those stories. I suppose as a dad myself, I'm a stand-up comedian as well, so I've always been very comfortable talking about my own insecurities and my own failings, because that's where comedy lives. You don't get a lot of laughs from talking about how you've had a great day and everything's worked out fine, because that's really boring. We've all got one friend who's like that, and they've not got no good stories whatsoever. But when I started blogging about being a dad, it's mainly women and mainly mums who read my blog, and they were often coming to me saying, I'm really glad someone's being honest about this, but that was never something I set out to do. It was just a case of, I didn't know what I was doing either, and it was nice to hear that there was a conversation starting between people who were also being able to feel comfortable to admit that they were also struggling, which is a point that people have brought up a lot today.
No, for me, I'm really impressed that we've got men coming here talking about this as well, because for me, I was a teenage parent at 17, and when I found I was a father, I was very isolated, and I didn't really hang around with the good crowd. And I remember being in my business class at college, not talking to anyone in the classroom because I felt like I was different from everyone. And, and I think it's important for us to talk about this,
We're kind of heading to the end, which is why I wanted to speak to Danielle, who's back here, because you've got a really good question to ask, which kind of sums up everything that we talk about. It's almost impossible, really, to kind of work out, navigate a path through life, isn't it? And your question is about having it all, really. Just tell me about your story.
Yeah, of course. My name's Danielle, and I am mum to 18-month-old Anders, and my second son was sadly stillborn 10 weeks ago. But I work as a public affairs manager, and before Anders, I wasn't 1 ounce maternal at all, and didn't really think about having babies or anything. So when I went back to work, I found it incredibly difficult to try and give 100% to work, which is what I'd always done, and give 100% to Anders, who was my whole world. And I just wondered if anyone here had the secret to the elusive having it all. I find it completely impossible having half of it, to be honest. So anyone can share anything with me, that would be wonderful.
I'm the typical kind of perfectionist type personality who always, before children, gave 150% to everything, thinking that everything had to be perfect. And I have had to come to accept, and actually I'm a big believer in now, the 70% rule. Don't tell my boss this. But that 70% is enough. Do you know what I mean? Nothing has to be perfect.
That's a lot of you.
No one's perfect. There's only 24 hours in a day, and half of those, in reality, you should be asleep. So you can only do what you can do.
Let's just get some final thoughts. Well, from our mums and from our panel, because I think, 2 hours has flown by, but one thing that's been really obvious, I think, throughout is the themes, the fact that even though we're all separate people, different lives, we all have the same fears, don't we, Giovanna?
Absolutely, and I think we can just look at other people and think that they've got it all the time, and we don't see what's going on behind closed doors. That whole thing of 2 hours flying by, I literally can talk, we all talk about being a mum endlessly, you never run out of topics, you never run dry. And I just think, I find it fascinating talking to people, and because, people of all walks of life, we have the same problems, same issues, and the more that we share, the more actually we create even more of a community.
Yeah. And I think there's a bit of a grass is greener thing. Yeah. Like, I feel guilt for being a working mum, which I know that Stacey and we've all spoke about. But I love the fact that you touched on earlier that you feel like you should be a working mum. So I think either way, you're going to feel some sort of guilt, and I think I feel really happy that we've confirmed that, and we're all going to feel it.
Just to face it.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's just so inspiring to be in a room full of people, men and women, who are all on the same common ground, who have all come together to support one another, because we all know that we're facing a quite an impossible task. Yeah. Nobody's perfect, but we're doing a blooming good job, every single one of us. And as long as we stick together
and we're there for each other when we need it, everything's going to be okay.
Absolutely.
And no matter what, as long as you unconditionally love and adore your children, you are doing the right thing and you're doing a great job.
And if you take away all the judgment as well, if everyone stops judging each other, you know, because I think when you judge, actually, it's something within you. You're trying to, you know, come to terms with something that you're doing. Forget about it. You're doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
Get on with it. Don't compare. Don't judge.
We're amazing.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you to our incredible panel. Thank you to Stacey and to Giovanna and to Rochelle. Most of all, though, well, and to me,
Every single person in this room.
yeah,
and
exactly.
All,
All of our incredible mums, everybody online. Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks, mums and dads. Thank you.